recently was Ed Sheeran, that he's come out with all these new paintings. It's a bit murky because they pretty much look like Jackson Pollock paintings. Hi there, welcome to another episode of Bench Talk. I'm your host, Tom Gerrard. Today I'm coming to you with another ARTSURDITY episode. I've got my good mate here, Wayne Lim, from the Future History podcast. How you going, Wayne?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks. It's always fun to have these conversations and, you know, like tackle subjects of, I guess, absurd things that are happening in the art world. I don't know if today's topic is so absurd. It is just an interesting subject. There's a little bit of absurdity in there, yeah.
There is a bit of absurdity. I think a lot of people, or some people, would agree that it's pretty absurd. But we'll get onto the absurd components of this. I think that there are, maybe holistically it's not absurd, but there will be little bits in there that seem a little bit more absurd than the average run-of-the-mill artist.
Totally.
Introduce it. Tell us, what are we talking about?
All right. Well, today we're going to focus on celebrities having a crack at the art world, really. Like, crossing over, whatever you want to call it, or just, getting into art and just how that looks for them because they've already built up their name. So I guess the one that really sparked my interest on this recently was Ed Sheeran, that he's come out with all these new paintings. And he's actually, he's getting, like, it's a bit murky because they pretty much look like Jackson Pollock paintings, and he's painted them in exactly the same style and all that sort of stuff. And the interesting thing is Damien Hirst has got behind him and backed him, and he's exhibiting them through his gallery Henny, and he's also selling prints for £900 each of these paintings. But the sales go to charity to help his music foundation, which is all good. But it's just interesting, like seeing someone just jump in and go, oh, I'm an artist now, and it's awesome that he's doing that, because I think that everyone on the planet should have a crack at art, and I think the world will be a better place if we had more artists in this world. But at the same time, I guess there's this grey line of, like, I guess honing in on your craft to get to the levels where you're at, if you know what I mean. It's like, it's like even, we mentioned Damien Hirst, like he's a very successful, well-known artist. Imagine if he suddenly came out with a music album, and it's like, hang on, it's very popular because you got a name, but have you spent the years honing in on the craft, and is it any good? I guess that's a big question,
Yeah, and good is going to be entirely subjective.
Totally.
As well. So I think that the criteria, like, I mean, an album, I don't know, can you compare an album to art? Because an album you can't just pick up an instrument and say, I can play guitar, but a paintbrush, you can pick it up, have a crack, and you're an artist, a visual artist.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's usually, not everything's done alone, So, like, the craft is being made with art. Like, that's happening sort of alone, unless you got a team of assistants. But then there's all the gallerists and all these other people, like the marketing teams and all that come into it to promote it. And it's the same with music. You end up, like, with music producers and other musicians to sort of help pull it all together. Production teams, all that sort of stuff. So, it's interesting. I think, like, I've got a theory on the Ed Sheeran one, and this subject's going to come up a lot with a lot of these other celebrities that we're going to cover as well. And there's this guy, Todd Henry, and I was reading one of his books. I had him on my podcast years ago, and he comes from the music background, but looks at creativity and music is all the same. But he was saying that, there's this thing, what's it called? It's called, I can't believe I've gone blank on this at the moment. But it's where when you start doing something, you impersonate your heroes, So, like, say I'm going to start learning a guitar. Like, all right, I get a new guitar. I learned to strum. I learn a few notes, and then straight away I'll look to like Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, Deep Purple, and start learning some tunes or whatever. So it's the emulation phase. That's what he calls it.
Yeah.
So what you do is you look for people who are already doing it, and you're not writing your own music or anything. You're sort of emulating other stuff that's out there. You think, oh, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to learn that. And I feel that Ed Sheeran is at the emulation phase of art. He's emulating Jackson Pollock. But the thing is, it's like there's a difference between coming up with an idea and ripping off an idea. You know what I mean? It's like much easier to look at something else and go, oh, that's cool. Oh, how'd they do that? Okay, I'm going to do that as well. But to come up with something new is a completely different thing,
I would argue that there's no such thing as coming up with something completely new. I think that you're always going to be, in your work, you're expressing all the influences that you've collected along the way. And you're using tools that have already been used before as well. And I think that where your artwork differentiates is that you've had the years to carve out an identity for yourself that's expressed through your work. So I do agree that with Ed Sheeran that he is still very novice in that space, where he hasn't taken enough influence to make his artwork original. So it is still very much emulation. But I think we're all kind of doing that in some capacity. We're all still using the tools that have come before us that other artists have used. We're listening to the same music as other people, exploring the same places, eating the same food, in the same environment as the people around us as well. So we're still taking in the same things as how we're interpreting and putting that back out there. So I think that there is still that grey area. But I get you. I get what you're saying, that he's still pretty novice. But I was just also thinking, going back to what you're saying, like with these artists or these celebrities, but they're celebrities in their own right because they are creatives doing their own thing, right? Like whether it be music or acting or performing. But like, we're going to get onto Johnny Depp, but he's a musician as well. Russell Crowe did that whole thing, and they've toured globally. So it's not anything new to do a crossover.
Yeah, but there's a thing but it just what I'm saying is it takes a long time to get good at something, because to go back to that emulation phase. Like we've all been there. It's like where we all go through it as we're starting our creative journeys. And the thing is, as you go through it, you're always, emulating other people. But as you get more influence and you're looking around and you get more like you become a soup, like as we we're talking about on your podcast, you become a soup of like all different influences. But if you're only influenced by one person, you're just going to be a copycat of them. And that's what I'm saying. Like with Ed Sheeran, like I looked at it, and if you just if you just send a JPEG of the painting, you go, who painted this painting? You just say Jackson Pollock straight away. Yeah,
like that whole aesthetic is kind of like, you could almost just call it Jackson Pollock look and feel, right? Like, and Ed Sheeran's not the first person to adopt that style either. But it is very much like Jackson Pollock. He's the one that I don't even want to say that he started that, but he definitely brought that into the forefront. That kind of that style of painting, if you will.
Yeah, but there's so say Ed Sheeran had say 20 influences that was in his art. He could be doing the drip style of painting, so the action painting that Jackson Pollock does, but then he's inspired by other artists and he creates something new with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because that's what they say all the newness comes from is like just different combinations. And
I hear you.
I heard an analogy about it with like markets recently, and they're talking about how fruit and veg and animals and livestock and all that were always there, but then people's would, like, at first they would war over this stuff, and then they started trading between each other. But then it was like the hours it took to actually go from town to town took so long, and then the market was invented, and then they'd have a central place where everyone would meet and exchange goods, which we still do till this day. But all the parts already were there. You know, it was just putting the combination together and getting it right. And I feel art and creativity is the same thing. You've got all these influences, and yeah, you can come up with new ideas and new ways of expressing those influences, but usually all the same tools are being used and all that type of stuff, you know. But there is some groundbreaking stuff out there. I'd hate to say, like, I wouldn't say that there's things that are happening that have never happened before. I mean, sorry, you know, I feel that some things like are brand new ideas, but they are, like, if you look at the sum of their parts, they have come from different places.
Yeah, I would say that there are more evolutions. I don't think that there's anything that's going to be entirely standalone, completely foreign to us. Everything is just part of this process of evolution. And yeah, like I think that a lot of these, like with Ed Sheeran in particular, I think that his work is, I get what you're saying, pretty novice. And so I suppose that thematically what we're going to be discussing is whether or not these celebrities, they deserve the praise and the accolades and be put on the pedestal that they are, given the quality of their art, or you know, or just the years that they haven't really, they're not developed enough. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, but like, is this a good or bad thing? Like, it's not for me to say. All I'm saying is, like, I think if you strip the celebrity away from them and got them to go out as artists and they said, "This is my art," I can pretty much guarantee that that Ed Sheeran wouldn't be having an exhibition at Henny.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious. Yeah,
yeah. But Damien Hirst is pretty clever and he knows how to make money. So that's you know, he's like, "Oh yeah, come over here, mate. I'll look after you." Yeah.
But also I reckon that, like, with, yeah, you would agree to this because you've put in a lot of energy into this, that it's not even just about the artwork, right? Like, it is about the person that's behind the artwork. You've put in a lot of time and energy and been very mindful of building yourself up, and then the art comes after that. So people aren't just buying a painting of a bearded face or a fence. They're buying a Tom Gerrard piece. So there is, whether or not you would agree, but I think that there's degrees of you being celebrated because you're an accomplished artist. So when people are buying your work, they specifically want a Tom Gerrard piece. If I was to whip up something like that, it wouldn't have the same quality for sure. But if I was to replicate it as closely as I could, it's still going to be lacking something. And it's not going to have that essence behind it because it's not a Tom Gerrard piece. So I guess that a lot of these celebrities, they are leveraging of their built names, but they still had to go build their names up.
Yeah.
And they're just transferring that brand across to something else. It'll be, I would liken it to how you would have like Nike, they were making shoes and sneakers and only shoes, running shoes for the longest while. And then all of a sudden now they're getting into apparel. And then you're thinking, well, they're not an apparel brand, but they're just transferring the values, the brand across to apparel. And a lot of these celebrities are leveraging off that. They're doing that. And it is what it is, man. Like, I don't know if it is going to rub a lot of visual artists the wrong way because they feel as though that they've jumped a queue, I suppose. But,
yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I just think it's I don't know. Wouldn't you? I just think, wouldn't you want to get better first? And why? And like that's all I feel.
The process, though. Like,
yeah,
like if all these artists are gonna be like genuinely invested in their paintings, and we're specifically talking about artists that these celebrities that have gone to visual arts painting. Well, isn't this like, if they're legit invested in this, isn't it just the process? Like, does he have to just sit and paint for 5 years before he showcases it?
No way. Like, I'm saying, good on you. Like, say it was the other way around, and you know, Damien Hirst was doing music now, and he got to open up for Ed Sheeran at like Madison Square Garden. Like, mate, if you're starting to do music, you'd take that chance for sure.
Take it, for sure.
You wouldn't pass it up. So I'm not saying anything about. I'm just saying this is an interesting conversation, And
Yeah.
there's so many flip sides to it because have you seen photos of Ed Sheeran and a video of him making the art?
Yeah, he
Mate,
loves it.
he's so happy. And how
Yeah,
can you take that away from someone?
exactly.
You
Exactly.
know, but what I'm saying, like, it's just there's so many. It's just such a murky subject, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There are definitely some celebrity artists that I will look at their work and it's not for me. And I would agree that they have that platform because of their resume before they became an artist.
Yeah. But
But
like your point before, like that they've actually worked their ass off on something and built their name up in the first place. And, you know, they know what it takes, but it's like you can only do so many things with the hours and days and years and months you got on Earth, you know. But it's good, like, yeah. But anyway, like there's some other artists I want to talk about. And I feel that some of them have been going for a bit longer and
yeah,
are getting places. Like, one of them's Jim Carrey. Like he's been at it for a long time doing
long
his
time.
art, and he's getting good, you know. And he like once again he loves it. And we all know with Jim Carrey, he's very authentically himself, you know. And he's
Yeah.
expressing himself, and it's he's found this other way to express himself, and it's really lit him up. And you know, I remember seeing it all at first, and like I saw a video of him and he had this amazing studio, like a dream studio,
Yeah.
massive,
Huge.
like big wall of windows with letting natural light in, all this sort of stuff. And you thought, oh, you bastard, you know, like, but then and then you look at the paintings and you're like, oh, look, you got the dream studio, but you don't know how to paint. But then he just applied himself and he's getting better and better, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess that's something I love to see. As I don't know, I'm a hard worker, and I like to see people sort of earning their stripes in the space, and that's yeah. But that's just my view. What do you think about Jim Carrey?
I don't know. I love Jim Carrey. I think as a character, as an outspoken human being, very expressive. So aside from the movies, which I think that everybody loves and have for decades, I remember watching a documentary on his painting, and it was a different Jim Carrey. I think that he kind of like just found a new way of expressing himself that was removed from the comedian Jim Carrey. That there's not so much humor or satire in it. There is some, but it's just more commentary and live commentary in his work. Some of it actually gets pretty dark, and I think that a lot of it was that. So, and this is kind of what I was getting at with a lot of these celebrities, that they're creative people first and foremost. So for them to be visual artists or expressing their creativity in that way, I don't mind. I think it's great. And I think that for someone like Jim Carrey, that is obviously very expressive, there has to be multiple ways for him to get out there and to do his thing. So, but no, I do remember seeing a thing on his studio, and it was an incredible space, and he was working on massive scale paintings that he had on the floor, and he was just going for it. And if that's the way that you want to create, and if you have the means to do it, there shouldn't be anyone telling you to do otherwise. So I think that's where I sit with a lot of this. And I didn't necessarily agree with your point. This is going way back about anyone can be an artist until we had that conversation on my podcast. And then since then, I'm sold on that. And I think that that is very much a black and white thing for me. I'm like 100% anyone can be an artist, full stop, no ifs, no buts. So for these guys to get out there and do it, I think it's just the point of contention is just going to be more them leveraging off their celebrity. But I think that like whatever Jim Carrey's doing, like go for it, do it. I think he needs it. I think a lot of these people need it. It's either that or get on drugs. So paint, even better.
You know, if you're sort of in between movies and just kicking back with your millions, you know, you got to have some passions, eh?
Yeah, you know, if you're going to be addicted to something, it may as well be painting.
Yeah.
Hey artist, it's Claire here from the Art Career Academy. If you've been creating for years and you know it's time to go all in on your art career, then Tom and I are here to support you. If you're ready to grow your visibility, build more consistent income, and step fully into life as a professional artist, that's exactly what we help with. Our signature program, Going Pro, is designed for artists who are ready to up-level. We support you with the clarity, confidence, and a solid plan to turn your creative practice into a thriving career, without the burnout or second-guessing every move. At the Art Career Academy, we're all about raising up the art community and showing what's possible when artists back themselves. So to get started, grab our free Creative Cashflow cheat sheet. It's packed with 20 tried and tested ways to make an income from your art. Head to artcareeracademy.com to download it now. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
So another artist I wanted to chat about who's given it a nudge is Adrian Brody. Have you seen his artwork?
I've seen it. Yeah, like that. Not like that style for me. That collagey type, just like really loud and chaotic. Not for me. It's only because I probably haven't had enough time. I didn't dedicate enough time to sit there and try to figure it out, but it's just that that type of, like, I would look at that style of art, and if it doesn't gel with me immediately, if it's going to be too jarring for me, then it's almost like fingernails down a chalkboard. That's my initial reaction to it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to. That's not to shit on him at all, but it's art, right? So it's very subjective.
Art. Yeah, it's interesting, like, because I really like his movies, and I think he's a brilliant actor, and yeah, he's in very tasteful movies as well.
Yeah.
And to see his art, the art that he's done, is like, what that's the art that he's making, and it's like this like generic street art / pop art stuff where you just sort of print Charlie Brown printed out
layers and layers and layers of
Marilyn Monroe or Lisa Simpson, and just start collaging stuff. Pink, heaps of pink. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty Etsy, isn't it?
Oh, it's not for me at all. But the thing is, he sold a painting recently for $425,000 US, and I guess that's the thing that has me just go, what? Like, and there was even like an article.
Someone who likes their movies. If you're a fan of Adrian Brody, the work that he does in movies, and you wanted a piece of Adrian Brody, how else could you do it? If he didn't turn to visual art, and you were, other than like memorabilia, a lot of people like memorabilia, but if it wasn't that, if he was going to paint, and you had the money to drop on one of his paintings, fair enough. That works.
Yeah, I get it. But that's like sort of putting him, that price bracket puts him in a certain level within the art world. It sort of says that this is someone, and all that sort of stuff. But that's a thing I wanted to talk to you about, actually, is around provenance. Like they talk about provenance a lot in art, and it's like who's owned this painting beforehand, and where's it hung in, which galleries is it hung in, and all that. And all this adds to the story of that artwork and makes it more valuable. And I feel that with these celebrities, because they have the celebrity around it, it puts automatic provenance on their artwork. Because it's like you saying, it's like, oh, who did this Jackson Pollock rip off? It's actually an Ed Sheeran. It's like, really? Is that an Ed Sheeran painting? Oh, okay. Like suddenly it's different to what you thought it was, And so, as you're saying with Adrian Brody, it's like, oh, who painted this thing? It's like, oh, it's actually painted by Adrian Brody. It's like, oh, okay, you look at it different straight away. And it's the same with like I know there's lots of, because Warhol, he like pumped out the artwork like a factory, and there was lots of the same, just similar looking artworks out there of the same series. And the thing that sets a lot of them apart is provenance. It's like I know that when I was working at Christie's, what's his name? Hugh Grant was buying a lot of Warhols and stuff because they were popular at the time. But and they were reselling them through Christie's, and he'd have them in bubble wrap for a few years and then just put them back on the secondary market. And because he'd owned them, that was part of the provenance. It's like,
Ah,
you got these two
right.
similar artworks, and he's like, yeah, but Hugh Grant owns this one at the moment. It's like, oh, okay. It's something that people talk about at like the cocktail party and that, like say
Yeah,
Warhol,
okay.
yeah,
That's a
Hugh
good
Grant
point.
used to own that, and it jacks the value up on things. And so what I'm saying is all these artworks, they've got automatic provenance
Yeah.
because of who made them, which should be automatic anyway, but it's sort of added more to it through the celebrity, through the whatever they've done to build their name.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point. I hadn't considered the Hugh Grant kind of that situation, but that makes a lot of sense. It's like the James Dean, that Porsche. His Porsche, how like it's so iconic because it's James Dean's Porsche. And,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, because they would have come out of the factory and they would have been churning those things out.
Yeah.
There'll be thousands of them, but there's one that's a cut above
There's
the rest
one. Yeah. Yeah.
because of
And
the
it's almost
provenance.
priceless. Yeah, because of that. So where do you sit with that? Do you have an opinion on that, or are you just stating
No,
matter
not
of fact
really.
that that's just how it is?
It's how the art world works, and provenance plays a big role in it. And all
Yeah.
these artists, because of due to their celebrity, they're putting automatic provenance on their artwork, and I guess that's why we're seeing them get into big galleries and fetch large prices and all this sort of stuff. But whether
Yeah.
you're looking at the content of the work, you sort of might go, you know what, these guys, I think they need a couple more years in the studio before they reach get their art hung in certain rooms.
Then maybe that's two different conversations, I think. I think that there is yourself, and I think that what you can bring into with your take on this is that you can see both, right? Because you both have put in the work to get your work to a standard that you're happy with at the moment, but also still striving and still developing and evolving as you go. And at the same time, you've also worked on your personal brand to then bring those two together. But I think that there'll be a lot of people that their interpretation of it would be work first. I think a lot of artists that I know and that I follow and I see around the way is that they kind of, you can almost put them in two camps: the ones that focus strictly on the work, and then the ones that try to build their brand. And the ones that are focusing on the work, they generally are the ones that are hiding behind the work as well. But then they don't realize that the value of the work, the provenance, is going to be the building of that brand. So there is the two components, and I think that there'll be a lot of friction in where people will be debating, if they care enough to even have a discussion about it, debating debating the value of what it is that they're bringing. Because now, like, I'm also thinking of another artist, like Pharrell Williams, right? Like, he was originally a musician, but we see his name everywhere, just across a whole bunch of collaborations. And it was very similar to how all these guys leveraging off their celebrity, because he was a musician. Now he's doing a lot of collaborations with Adidas, Lego. I think he's doing his biopic, the Pharrell Williams movie, which is going to be entirely done in Lego as well. So that's kind of similar sort of thing, and that's where I'm just like, these guys are they're creative people that are willing just to try new things, even at the risk of getting criticized. And of course they're getting criticized. People are shitting on them non-stop anyway, right? Even if they weren't doing this. So it's a bold move to get into the art space, the visual art space, where I think you really open up yourself to criticism. I think there'll probably be, the default is to criticize and to shit on people before they start getting that cut through and earning their dues.
Yeah. Yeah. As I said, this is a murky subject, because we're talking about all these pros and cons and all that sort of stuff. And I always feel like, well, what do I feel deep down about this whole subject? And I feel like good on them. Good on them, make your art, because I know how much art brings to my life. Like the act of making it, the act of viewing it, exhibiting it, selling it, all that sort of stuff. It's like the number one thing in my life, and it brings me so much joy. And I think that if these guys can get the same amount of joy out of it, like who's anyone to stand in that way, you know? And also that putting yourself out to get cut down is like, it takes a lot of guts to do that. That's why like 99% of the world doesn't will prefer to just work for the man and get a payday and, you know, lay low.
And they all seem to be pretty comfortable with it. Like another one is Lucy Liu. I don't know if you've checked out some of her work. That she's been doing art for quite a while. A whole bunch of different range of art. So I think that's almost like her main thing, as opposed to acting. But I think that because that they have been celebrities and have been in the limelight, they've been getting shat on their whole life, their whole professional life. So they're comfortable with just being themselves. At least the ones that we have, that we've that we've brought up, they're comfortable with that level of discomfort. And I think that you have to have pretty thick skin to automatically be put into that pedestal of artistry, that people take years and years to build that thick skin up, and as they have as well, so they can just jump into it. And they could probably even just release an album and just have it, you know, being criticized like, I gave it a go. Exactly. And I think a lot have.
Man, I'm trying new things. Like, I get it. Like, I've been DJing out and about, and it's like something I've picked up in my 40s, you know, and I'm fucking loving it. And I know I'm not that great at it, like, but I'm loving it, and I'm having a really good time doing it. And I've got like a crew of friends I get around and do it with, and it's how like one of the activities we get a lot of joy out of. And
awesome, man.
You know, it's even me sitting here talking to you, like having a podcast and stuff like that. Like, no one gave me permission to do it, and I'd never had any media training, and it was really daunting at the start, you know. But you got to push yourself out there, eh?
Oh, dude, I agree, man. I'm sitting here having a conversation with Tom Gerrard about art, speaking to an artist about it, and for sure there's going to be some people like, who the fuck is this guy? What does he have to say? It's like, just saying what I'm saying, you know, like, you don't have to agree. But no, I hear you. I think you just, and it probably could be an age thing as well. Like, you get to a certain point where you care a little less about the external validation and what people have to say about you. That you're like, you know, whatever. I'm just doing this. If you don't like it, you don't have to tune in. You don't like it, you don't have to see the art. You know, if you don't like it, maybe have a go yourself and do something that you do like, and we'll exchange notes. We'll compare notes and see what comes of it. Totally. But look, man, I think that these guys, these celebrities, again, I think they're celebrated because they have some creative flair that they have already flexed, and they've been dragged through the mud. They have seen a lot of shit that we would not understand, like in some, you know, heinous industry, tough stuff, some real tough stuff. And they would have had conversations that would have broken a lot of people. They would have been torn down. Like, how many times would you have you had people jump on your Instagram and, you know, just giving you a mouthful for no reason? And these guys see it daily. So for them to be like, I'm going to have a go at art in spite of all that, go. Yeah. Do it. Yeah. Awesome. Not many people have that.
So I guess in summary, we want to wrap this up by saying every time we meet up and have these conversations, we come in all like, oh, look at this ridiculous ARTSURDITY going on in the world. And we always come out with a positive spin on it and feeling pretty positive about the whole thing.
That is something that, yeah, you're 100% right, because that's the approach that I'm trying to go with generally anyway, and to not hate on things just for the sake of hating it. And if you don't like it, then you don't have to subscribe to it either. And it was funny because the conversation I had with a couple of friends a couple of days ago about conceptual art. And I guess that because they're not in the creative scene whatsoever. So I was explaining to them what it's about and how I don't mind it. Like, I get it. I understand. I get its place in the world of art. And it's so broad. The art, then there's so much room for artists to play in that I don't think you really need to feel any kind of angst or animosity or jealousy directed at other people's success. Just go do your own thing, and then just rise up yourself.
Yeah, I think jealousy is the main thing to look at as well. I feel, because it's usually a sign that that's what you want to be doing, and they got there first.
Yeah, and they got there first, and they got there their own way. And I think because there's so many ways to get there, and with these celebrities as well, that they probably took a shortcut in this this particular instance, but it's not like that they fell into it. Like this just part of their journey. How they managed, how they navigated that. And if it wasn't this, then they could be doing anything else as well, right? Like, yeah. I mean, they're just trying to find their thing, find their way, and just having a bit of fun with it.
Totally. So, I just would say watch this space. I hope they all stick with it, and I'd love to see the art they're making in 10 years' time.
Well, I hope they do. I hope there's more of it. I do like seeing crossovers. I'm a big fan of seeing crossovers. I like seeing someone that's been celebrated for this, then going off and doing that. And also, like, another thing that I wanted to touch on was that I think that the problem that we have with this is labels, how we want to try to make sense of things. So we say that, okay, you're an actor, then that's what you do. You're a musician, that's what you do. And you can only do that. In this space here, visual art, this is my space, and don't you dare try to come in, because I own this space. I'm in this space. And so once you come in and you take over where I'm at, that's where there's tension. They have no issues with them winning Grammys, winning Academy Awards, because that's not their space. So I think that there'll be a lot of artists that would, if there is pushback, it would be from people within this space. People outside of it would probably be, yeah, cool, man, go for it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, mate, this is a good one. This is a really good topic. I really hope that people have a think about it and try to formulate their own ideas within this.
Totally. All right, Wayne. Well, thanks for that. I'm feeling inspired. Going to get back to some paintings, but always love chatting to you about this stuff.
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna go do the same.
Yeah, cool.
All right, it's a wrap.
That's a wrap.